In this video, we're going to be talking to dog aggression expert Michael Shikashio, who spoke to us about when it's the right time to consider rehoming or potentially behaviorally euthanizing a dog who's displaying aggression. So if this is something that has been toying in the back of your mind and a question that you've been secretly wondering, maybe you secretly hit watch on this YouTube video, then in this video, we're going to be giving you practical things that you can think about and consider in the hopes that you can come to an educated decision on your next steps with your dog. Coming up. What's up, guys? It's Jenna with Dog Liaison, where I coach you on how to enhance your dog's mental health. On this channel, we break down scientific research in order to inform us on how to train dogs. At this point, watching this video, you might be feeling a little bit anxious and you might be feeling a little bit sensitive because your dog has displayed aggression. And to you, understandably, it's a very significant moment. Perhaps your dog has harmed you or harmed a loved one. Maybe your dog has harmed someone else that you don't even know, and so there's a lot of liability issues going on. And so you're feeling a little anxious. To you, this is a very serious, severe moment. But let's take a step back for a moment and look at how a professional consultant might consider the severity of a dog bite.
Yeah, so the first thing most dog professionals are going to look at is the severity of the bites that happen. Just like people use their hands, or like if somebody's going to punch somebody, or use violence or some sort of threat or aggressive behavior, people do it the same way in different levels. Vast majority of people aren't going to kill somebody when they get cut off on the street or somebody cuts them in line or gives them a dirty look. Most people are just going to give a dirty look back or say something or maybe do nothing. And dogs are very much the same. Vast majority of dogs are going to, if they are going to use aggression, they don't want to necessarily do overt damage because they know it's risky for them too. Over 4.5 million dog bites happen a year, so you have a better chance of getting bitten by a dog than many other things in your life. And so dog bites are quite normal. It's only a very small percentage of them that you're going to see this extreme severe biting or very severe risk to people or other animals. So vast majority of cases, we're going to make sure we're putting it we're kind of viewing at a perspective that is comparable to what our individual situation are, because there's an infinite number of factors that are going to make each case unique. So that's where a professional can come in again and help to look at all of the factors in each particular case and kind of weigh what's going to happen in the future or potentially could happen in the future. So most dogs are going to bite at a very low level. And so that's the first thing I'm going to look at is the severity of the bite. When we start getting into bites that are very injurious, so where it requires medical care, people are getting stitches or worse, that's on the more severe end of the scale, but those are the very narrow percentage. Less than 1% of all dog bites result in injuries that severe. So that's the first thing I'm looking at. But that's not the only thing, because it depends on the circumstances as well. So a dog that maybe runs out of their yard, jumps over a fence, or breaks through the door to get to somebody and bites them, that's a lot of effort to go and give that bite. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a severe case, because that dog might bite somebody and not leave any damage. And then if you look on the other side of the coin, you might have a dog that bites very severely, but it's only when it's a cases where it's a very little amount of effort from the dog. So we want to weigh in those variables. So yes, we want to look at the severity of biting, because that of course presents more risk to others in the future, because typically dogs that bite at a certain level, we can reasonably expect them to bite at somewhere around the same level in the future, all things being equal. So once a dog bites at a severe level, we want to be careful, because they could bite at that next severe level again, versus a dog that's bitten 20 times and maybe has left no damage. That for me is a much less risky of a case, because we can reasonably assume 21st bite, all things being equal, is probably going to be about the same, so it's not quite as risky. So that's kind of the first thing to look at, is the severity of the injury. And then we can look at some of the other factors, of course, with dogs. The size of the dog is going to matter. So if I have a Great Dane biting somebody versus a Chihuahua at the same level, so the same level of pressure on their bite, of course, we've got to have more considerations for the Great Dane, because they could do more damage simply because of their size. Every case is going to be unique. So I'm going to make sure I say that again. Every case is unique. The thing to try to avoid is comparing yourself to others. because many of us go online, something happens in our life, whether it's the dog biting somebody or the kitchen sink springing a leak. We go online to find out solutions and answers to this issue. Every case is going to be unique, and that's really important. So if you start comparing yourself to other bite cases, you might go online and start reading. Usually, the ones that make the online channels and the media are the most extreme cases in most dog bites.
And because you're watching this video online, I'm of course not going to be able to tell you specifically what your next steps are. But I can tell you that there are 5 steps to go from here. There are possibly 5 options for you. 3 other than behavioral euthanasia and rehoming. And if you're interested in learning what those other 3 are, make sure you watch this video next. You can open this link in a new tab and check that out. And actually, if you're interested in listening to the full interview with Michael Shikashio, you can go ahead and open this link right here, open that in a new tab, listen to that interview kind of like a podcast if you'd like to. But regarding rehoming, Mike says that there's really nothing to be ashamed of. You don't need to feel guilty or consider yourself a bad dog mom simply because you needed to rehome your dog who wasn't the right fit for you and your family.
Rehoming whenever ethically and safe to do so. So rehoming or even returning the dog to where the person got the dog from. So whether it's a rescue or shelter, sometimes that's an option. And I want to say it's not an option that people should feel bad about if the dog's not the right fit. So if I've got somebody that reaches out to me, their dog is, snapped at a child that was visiting their home, or the niece or nephew came over and the dog growled or snapped at that child. They just rescued a dog, and maybe the dog was advertised as being great with everybody, but then all of a sudden the dog's had issues with children. That client lives with 5 kids, and the goal was to have this dog that was really great with kids, and there's kids coming over. That's a risk to those children. I'm going to look at just how manageable it is. That's going to be a lot more difficult to manage, so we have to consider that in the overall quality of life for the dog, but also how much the owner can handle all of that management. I don't, some clients feel really bad about it, like, oh my gosh, I wanted to save this dog and we like this dog, but can't have biting children. But sometimes we're there to say, it's okay to return this dog because it's not safe in your home.
That said, when you're considering rehoming your dog who has displayed aggressive behavior in the past, there's a level of ethics that come into play here.
So if I have, let's say, a dog that's not only biting the children, but biting adults and also trying to attack every dog it sees outside, that's a very poor prognosis for that particular home and let's say it's bitten at a high level. So now you've got a very dangerous dog and it's very risky. We have to consider the ethics of that, right? Can I ethically rehome this dog? Do I want this dog going somewhere else and biting somebody else's child? Or would I want this dog living next door to me is a really great question to ask. So an important consideration there. So, behavior euthanasia is sometimes a topic that will be something I have to discuss with clients where it's the dog is just too dangerous or is not able to. There's the options for safe management or behavior change strategies are very low chance of a successful outcome.
So if at this point you've come to the conclusion that yes, rehoming my dog is the right choice, and now it's just a matter of finding the right fit for this dog, where is he supposed to live? Not only do we need to consider the quality of life for the dog and what his life can look like, but we also need to consider the quality of life of the guardian of that dog. Whether that is you who's going to continue living with this dog who has a history of biting, or the quality of life for the human who you're going to rehome the dog with.
But basically for dogs, we want them to live, their life is short. So we want them to live a productive quality life in the sense of being a dog. So what does a dog do? And we have to look at, our society and how much pressure we put on them as society to do certain things. But certainly freedom to, express themselves, freedom to move around, freedom from the basic things like hunger, thirst. They should be healthy. Those are the basics. But enrichment and quality of life, it goes beyond just like fed and watered and able to go outside and go to the bathroom once in a while. It means quality of life, being able to sniff the grass and see the sun and enjoy, time with your owner, enjoy social time with either people or other dogs if it's appropriate, because that's important. Dogs are social beings just like humans. And if we restrict that, which can be a very normal thing that happens with aggression cases, right? We start restricting their movement because we're worried about them biting somebody on the street or lunging at other dogs. Again, very normal responses from the human side. We want to keep people safe. Sometimes it can be embarrassing, what our dog is doing on the leash, and we can't even go for a walk because they're barking and lunging at everything. So we start to reduce the number of walks, which reduces the amount of exercise, which reduces the amount of exposure the dog's getting to things in the world. So you can see how it starts to create this vicious cycle. And again, many times the dogs I see, they're micromanaged so much. They're kept in a crate for long periods during the day. They're not allowed to do so many of the normal activities dogs would do because of the aggression issues. It can really impact their quality of life. And when you impact the quality of life of any animal, it impacts their behavior. So if a dog that's not getting a lot of enrichment often is going to be more stressed and display some what we call maladaptive behaviors, or behaviors that are not normal for that particular species. I also want to look at the quality of life of the person. Right. So sometimes I have clients that their lifestyle has been so greatly impacted by the amount of management that needs to occur, or the dog is displaying aggressive behavior towards them, and they have to micromanage every movement they make around the house. They can barely get a leash on the dog. They can't go near any of the dog's toys or food, and they're like a prisoner in their own home sometimes. So we do have to, of course, assess for that. So it's both quality of life for the person and the dog is really important to look at. People are going to go through different, stages of their life just like dogs do. And so I never fault anybody for saying, I can't do this any longer with the dog, because most people are always, on the other side of the equation. They're saying, I'm committed to this dog. I want to do the right things. I just don't know what to do. I don't fault the person if they're saying, that they need to take a step back, because aggression is a serious thing in a lot of cases, and there's a lot of ramifications to think about, a lot of consequences to think about, a lot of lifestyle changes to consider, and it's a lot to kind of juggle at the same time when you're first experiencing this with a dog. So it's okay to take a step back and kind of consider the big picture in the overall owner's life as well as the dog's life. And that can shift even too. That can change. Like you could be like, all right, I'm going to do this, and then something comes up, and the overall outcome might change, and that's okay too, because it's never, like I said, it's never a consistent line. You might have ups and downs, and other curveballs come through in your life that can change that overall decision. But what I find, once we educate the clients and the client is educated, having the right information, regardless of the decision they make, they're going to be able to have solace and rest easier knowing that they made the decision process with an educated framework, right? Versus just kind of taking little bits of information off the internet, or like what they know, maybe little bits of what they know, or their own perceptions. It's always better to do it from an educated point. That way you feel a lot better about any decisions you make.
Many thanks to Mike Shikashio for coming onto our channel and talking about this very sensitive but very important topic. If you're interested in learning more about Mike, make sure you go to the description box and check out all of the links on all of the resources you can get for him. I would highly recommend his podcast. It's phenomenal. If you're interested in listening to our full chat, our full interview, you can check out this video right here to listen to that, or make sure you check out this video, which also features Mike on whether or not dog aggression can be cured. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit like, consider subscribing, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you guys soon.